transition to the next panel discussion. And I want to start with it with the important statement. The statement is, I'm angry about it. This is the name of our panel. What makes startups angry and investors angry? I think everybody knows that problem. And we invited great scale-up companies who have things to tell about investments, what angries, what makes them mad. And so we'll be greeting our speakers on our stage. Here's the next plan with the startups. So there will be panel discussion now. After that, we will have a coffee break after that, which is very important. And after that, we will have announcement of results. 3 startups that will make it to finals, and tomorrow will compete for funds, time, and opportunity. We still have more opportunities today. So first of all, I want to present the moderator of this panel. This makes me angry. Svyatnenko, Managing Director, Endeavor, and founder of Mission Possible, Powerful Ukraine Accelerator. They're doing second pitch now. Also, we will have Scaleups, Alyona Mysko, founder, CEO of FuelFinance.
It's her.
Next speaker, you've seen him on the stage before. It's Oleksandr Yaroshenko, Head of Strategy and Investments from Headway. The next representatives are Sevastyanov, founder of Svyatnenko, for joining us online from San Francisco. With minus 10 hours, thank you for being with us today. Thank you for joining us. And one more speaker joining us online. Online, Oleksii Yermolenko. So, startups and investors here. Oleksii is with us, co-founder Flying One Ventures. Leonid Podobedov, general partner Hi-Fi Ventures. Thank you for being with us. So hopefully Oleksii will join us. Greetings, everyone. It's a great panel discussion. I'm very excited. I've been made moderator, so I will try and make this discussion a lively one. So first of all, greetings, Diia.City United with the anniversary. The amount of work that the team has done is incredible. I'm so happy to be on this celebration, and hi, everyone. So we're going to start with investors. And maybe Leonid, with you will start. You have a background in investors and angels and funds. Tell us a little bit what makes you angry when the founder comes in the pre-seed and suggests to invest into a new Facebook. Right, it's a big list. So let's take the latest 6 months. First, we want to be honest with founders, because if a founder says that I have 3 million IRR, and you see the financial plan, you see maximum 300,000 and GMV 90%, so it's not 3 million IRR. You don't do it. Next, what really makes me angry, I already mentioned that, is rolling rounds. I still don't understand what that is. Who came up with that? But there are too many startups. They say, okay, we're getting rolling rounds, almost a year. We'll do it one more, and they spend 90% of that money already. And they say, okay. So that's what I would start with. But when we talk about the first getting to know your founder, so you're approached in the conference, you're an investor, you have the money. How do you, so what do you do with founders so that they don't make you angry in the first? So 100% of all the deals with Hi-Fi Ventures is networking. So we invest only into someone who we know. We observe them, somebody advised us, so as soon as we understand that it's the same type of focus in terms of industry, the check size, just to catch me on the event is not very productive. But you can continue doing that. So you cannot approach you, but you can approach with your friend. Yeah, there's a much bigger probability that we will invest in you if you approach with a friend. It's important to have an understanding of the stage of the industry where we invest, because we don't invest into games and we don't invest in crypto. We don't understand anything in that. And it's hard for us to pitch us something from that industry. And a lot of the founders, we see that. They don't do our work. It's just, oh, you're an investor. We want to pitch to you something. So that's not the thing to do. So how to do properly? We have some info on the website where we invest. We have a list of companies which we already invested. So you can find some friends, approach us through them. Because, yeah, we see a lot of startups to come unprepared. So let's go to Oleksii, to Formula Ventures. I talked with one of your portfolio startups, and he said, when you get the money from Fire One, you also receive some 50,000 in assistance and value, which is a great offer, but a startup has to live to that value and that portfolio management. Oleksii, can you share what are the red flags before you talk to a startup? Right, thank you. I'm happy to have you. I'm so happy that you are offline there together. I'm so happy to see you. I want to remind you all that interaction between the founders and funds is a temporary thing, and the fund is also fundraising.
But just from their investors. So the managers of funds, they also fundraise. They go through the same process, but with other participants of the market. So I guess someone else is being annoyed by us as well. So we definitely have to ask them. As for the challenges, but not only for founders, but everyone, and that is the over-corporate and topic. We have recently had a very interesting event where we met the founder in person, and then we got the email, "Dear Oleksii." You know, that's already too much. I'm not a dear Oleksii, like too official. We are sending for your consideration the presentation and blah blah. And I think when you're dealing with this means that that person is thinking in that way and making the decisions in the same way. And that's also the people they're going to hire. That has very little to do with the speed in decision making and so on. And for startups on the early stage, it's very important, you know, the speed. And Last year we visited one strategy session together with you. I thought that you were also pissed by stupid questions. In the conversation with the entrepreneur, you tried to show the value, understanding the challenges that the startups have at the early stage. The context is we had to vote there by raising your hands at that event. So I had to raise your hand and everyone would count, like 7 people out of SIM have voted for example. Fantastic. We already have open an eye and we are voting with our hands. Well, that's not clear. Here, I'm more concerned about the questions we are asking because the quality of questions can give you the understanding of quality of investors. There is Kitra Voice, a man who's a partner of one of the PayPal mafia, and he says that the good quality investors differs by understanding that in every case, in every company, there is 2, 3 most important things. The rest is basic and it's secondary. Understanding these specific things and understanding of how to verify them, that's what differs them. Thank you. I guess we heard now how startups annoy our investors. Let's now go to startups. Roma, first of all, I'm very happy to see you. I'm convinced that when we look at Roma, how can Roma annoy anyone? You know, that's a question mark. We are happy to hear you. Thank you for joining in. Could you please share your experience of communication with investors? And what was the sign of discomfort for you, of some red flags or some rough days when you would communicate with a number of investors? Thank you, everyone, for giving me the chance to talk about this. What annoys me, Oleksii, it taught me to perceive information just like information. But I can tell you one story that was rather unpleasant in my experience. Let's first say what is a good investor. On the internet you can find many tests that investor has to help and so on. In the Silicon Valley, when I talk to many, I understand that the good investor is the investor who gave money and is not in your way. If when he also is trying to help you with ideas and so on, that's who is providing you different also sources like generators if necessary. That this is a when you don't expect for the support, but when it's there, that's amazing. Those are the exceptional investors. And my story in fundraising, we communicated with one of the most well-known investors, and we gave his name in this meeting. So we had the meeting, they were interested, and I always ask them, do you have in your portfolio the startup that we will directly compete with? And I knew that they did have. And the representative of fund said that they had the startup that does the similar thing, but in another niche. And I asked him directly, is that startup going to enter our niche? He said no. And I said, okay, thank you for sharing. And then the time comes, and I find out that this investor provided our information to that startup. And he said, I communicate with that founder and they decided to take your niche and we're not going to invest in you. So he basically leaked all the data to our competitor. And of course it happens very seldom, but I did have that situation. Not very pleasant, but we survived it. because in the end, execution matters in the startups. Can you tell about that tool? Because I know that there is the internal tool that gives you the information or review about the investors. Can you give us how much it helped you? And what are the typical remarks on work with investors there? As for statistics, it was invested in 11,000 founders of 5,000 projects, and this fund got the network effect because founders usually work with thousands of other investors. And the POEM, they decided, let's develop a platform for investors like Google Review. And basically, they have the names of all the investors that exist in the world. And either YC founders, they leave it's their data, and each investor can have rate, because us as founders, we sign NDAs when we connect, so we can't share this information with anyone. We can only view and use that information for when deciding to work or not to work with that investor, but not giving names. But what I was surprised by such situations that as I had when pitch was leaked or some internal unpleasant situations, when I read the feedback about the big funds, top funds, and I saw that such situations, they often happen, but very important, that all depends upon the partner. It happens that the fund has 10 partners, 9 are very good ones, and 1 is not a very pleasant person. You have to also consider this when you sign the agreement, and if it's a big amount, I go to founders and I ask them how they worked with this investor, so I get some additional feedback. But the question, if you don't have access to the feedback, so the best option is to write to founders that you got money from these investors. As the previous guest said, that it's important who you take money from. It's important to know both from founders and from investors who they work with. Okay, now we'll go to Alyona. So, continue this topic. I watched the interview of Michael Siebel when he was asked about his path and how he had fundraising, and he said that he remembered every investor who told him no. And we have a positive topic. Everything that's annoying, that pitch deck that was leaked, but you closed your last round in the first year of the full-scale war, right? So could you please tell us what annoys you? Maybe those were the no of all investors, and how did you hack your fundraising last year? Well, in fact, I do not have the list of investors who said no, I just have a blacklist with all the moments and details and investors that I will never return to. Yes, I do have one. But from what I remember, my bright story about during fundraising, what I was annoyed with, well, at first I didn't understand anything about fundraising because this was my first fundraising. And the experience of Yaroslav was very useful for me, who has undergone this many times. This was my life hack. But I actually felt maybe after some 20th conversation that the selection of the investors, just like the selection of partner, that's something that's, for a longer period of time that you're going to have to work with them. And you have to also pay attention who is going to be comfortable for you to work with. And I also requested the feedback on these investors in the market, how to work them afterwards, what they helped you with. Another important matter was advised me by another founder that helps during fundraising. When you ask how do we make decisions, which startup is great and what is just good. And it's a very good principle. They tell you what's important for them, what are the factors, and you build up the pitch with the emphasis on what is important for this startup in particular. But I had one story that I didn't like very much, that when we were on the edge with that invest fund. I think there's a difference between the experienced investors and non-experienced investors. Because experienced investors are great investors who ask you questions, you realize that those are good questions. And thinking like, why didn't I think about it before? Okay, good, they told me, that ask me about this, I will do some research. And you understand that you grow as a company, as a person. But there are investors, and this is my personal conclusion, who are not very experienced, and they are not confident that they want to invest, and they start asking you many different questions, and you can't even figure out why those questions are being asked. There was one investor who kept on sending emails with follow-up questions, and they were all around the idea, even though this was a seed round. Of course, I can count any, economy, but it's pointless only when you on that stage. And they were requesting this data and that data, and the founder is not spending their time on the business development during fundraising, and you have very limited time, and you value it very much. At some moment of time when he continued asking many questions, I called Yaroslav and I told him that I can't do it anymore. We have prepared all data, but he is eating up so much time. And he said, let's ask him the question when he sends next inquiry. And let's tell them, we will prepare this, but how will this information help us develop our business? And that investor was so much annoyed with this question that in the reserved way, but he did send me an aggressive message afterwards. So it seems to me that I guess this is the only conclusion that I made from some unpleasant fundraising experience, and it seems to me that there must be some courage by the investor to tell the truth if you don't know what you want to invest, or if you're not sure if you want to invest. So just say that you are not sure. Maybe he needs to think whether or not he's ready to invest. But I just think that it's the, ecological type of communication, because if that additional information is not going to help you to make the decisions. No, this is not investment business. It's when the process of investment is and selection has to be on the level of the service, even until the signing. As for the stupid questions from investors, what else is the way to get into your blacklist? I want to get into that blacklist. What should I do? Well, in fact, this is just the feedback on the market of other founders from the point of view of the work with this investor. So indeed, I know many stories, and I'm sure that Roman can also tell them about some investors. I mean, I agree that it depends a lot on the partner. You can't talk about the fund. You're choosing the partner you are going to work with. But indeed, there are many stories about specific partners or companies when I know that they have invested the competitor, but they didn't tell the startup about this, another founder, and they would pass information. That's another story. And in general, this non-feedback from founders that you hear, that unpleasant to work with these people, they don't give added value, or even worse, they gave money but they keep on asking you 100 questions, and they're like precluding you from building up your company instead of helping you. When I hear this type of feedback, of course this will serve as a red flag whether or not I should move along with this investor. Yaroslav, Alyona was mentioning, but is a co-founder. He's not here, so you can, of course, ask about some references about these investors. And as for the insights of the last information, one of the good things investor can do is to say no quickly, but not to keep on asking you many questions. Oleksii, that's unbelievable. You're not annoying me at all. So in order to give the answer fast, not to take much time, Olex, so this is second time Oleksandr, you're the second time on the floor. Natalka and you were more than once on the stage, so we're happy to have you here. One. Oleksandr, dear Oleksandr, let me ask you. The same questions, of course, but expectations are higher because this is your second time on the stage, so you have to tell us new information. But spoiler, Oleksandr has prepared for this panel, and he sent me his answers and questions that I have to ask him. So, Oleksandr, what annoys you in investors? Maybe you have some 2 items that specifically annoys you in investors. All coincidences, of course, are random, and this is the insecure overachiever from childhood syndrome. When you have to prepare for everything and you don't want to be taken aback. So indeed, I have 2 specific items that I emphasize on. That is something I don't want to deal with. And people spoke about these things. It's a conveyor approach in the communication with the startups. When you come to the meeting and it happens in the following way. You come to office, you are met at the reception, and they are offering you a coffee, tea or water, and inviting you to the negotiation room. This is some reputable fund with a cool office. And even the first fact, the way the reception looks, that's already making you a bit smaller when you enter there. And you're thinking, oh, well, now there's going to be a fight here. And then you go to the negotiation room, wait for 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. And then, yes, they're showing us the 10 more minutes left. It's not only for you, for everyone, I see. Okay, long story short. Then you come and they tell you, okay, tell us, what do you have here? And it's obvious that they didn't prepare for this meeting, or they pretend not to be prepared. So you pitch your 2-3 minutes of glory in this small negotiation room together with your tea, and then they tell you, okay, what can we help you with? And you're just sitting there and thinking, well, I can speak about my experience. I say, I fundraise, and he said, yes, but funds can't help a lot with. What can we help you with? And then happens the following. When you go to the situation for the first time, you're telling it would be a nice thing to get acquainted, have a nice day, and let's keep in touch. But if you know a bit more of this cuisine, then the situation is a bit different. You can say, well, usually with other funds, they help us with our operational excellence. Here they did the intro for B2B client. Here they offered us this kind of partnership and invited us to a closed event when we met other unicorn founders and got the direct access to these valuable resources. And asking the question in such a way, the funds sometimes feel taken aback themselves. They say, oh, maybe we misunderstood you. We just have anxiety. How could we miss you? You are so big, and we will send you the follow-up, and we get the follow-ups for 15 interests of top companies of the world, and then you communicate with these founders. This is the first case, but I want to give time to other speakers.
In order to not to annoy you, have to have 15 intros from the biggest companies in the world. So, okay, we have less than 10 minutes. So we will probably give each of our panelists a direct question. One very practical advice to startups and investors. For investors and startups, what do you do not to annoy people around you, especially your potential partners? And let's start with Roman and Oleksii, and we then So, advice to investors, what do you do not to annoy you? So, one advice that will save you a lot of time. So, a very simple recommendation. So, I did that. So, always ask, are you ready to invest into my company? Are you interested in moving on with this process? Because sometimes you don't ask this and you keep talking, then you find out you're not fit because of some reason. So ask a question, yes or no. If not, well, thank you for getting to know. If yes, then it's okay. Then you start the process. It doesn't mean that they will invest by the end of the meeting, because it may take months, but it's a certain claim of your intent. It's really cost you hundreds of hours. At the end of the meeting, it's kind of awkward to ask this, but really, you have to do it. All right, thank you, Oleksii. One practical advice. Be ready to speak in the very simple questions. What are you doing? I understand that there's vision, but then you go down to the product. So it's real life and problems. So what specifically does this product solve? And when we finally like leverage financial access for innovative revolution, like it's fantastic stuff. But what specifically are you doing? And so you have to use simple language. So your advice, I agree with that. I have a practical advice, and not many founders do that. Learn to build communication with investors and do build it, not only through pitching, but keep doing that later, because there's reporting, there is asks, there are hiring. Not many startups can use this, say. So, Alex, one advice to investors, what do you do not to annoy us? Just be normal people, speak as people. Don't impose yourself onto startups. How quickly you went from intro to 15 top companies, and just be normal people. That's always a good start. Alyona, you have other questions. Top 3 funds from the blacklist. I have to open my Google sheet and follow. And one practical advice for our audience. Well, it's going to be more about to investors and startups. It's clear, but just to save time of founders, respect the founders' time, don't waste it, and be more critical and critical in fundraising, because you can use networks, you can use outbounds. I know startups that use the outreach through A6 and Z. I know founders who followed partners who, when they wanted to take money on all conferences and waiting them under the stage. It also works. So don't be limited with just one standard thing. And we also had a side effect where we were not afraid of asking during the fundraising what we wanted. We also asked for intro for potential clients. VCs were the audience who had potential clients. And we really received a good boost revenue during the fundraising just because of the intro. So think about the second part, other than money, what you can get during this fundraising. So, small announcement. If you need to talk to Leonid or me, we are available. So thanks a lot for your time. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot to all of our friends from other continents, other countries, those who joined us online.